Hey guys, welcome to Medifaction. Today, let's learn about drowning. Drowning is a form of asphyxial death where air entry into lungs is prevented due to submersion of mouth and nostrils into water or any fluid medium. Thus, drowning constitutes impairment of tissue oxygenation consequent to submersion into the fluid medium. Complete submersion is not necessary because the process will be complete even if the nose and mouth are submerged. Causes of drowning. The main causes of drowning are inability to utilize the buoyancy of body, exhaustion, hypothermia, and even entrapment in whirlpool or tidal waves. Types of drowning. Drowning is classified as typical drowning and atypical drowning. Typical drowning indicates obstruction of air passage and lungs by fluid. It is also known as wet drowning. Atypical drowning. This indicates condition in which there is very little or no inhalation of water in air passage and includes dry drowning, immersion syndrome, and submersion of an unconscious and secondary drowning. So there are different types of drowning, which are dry drowning, wet drowning, which is again classified as freshwater drowning and saltwater drowning. Then we have shallow water drowning, immersion syndrome, and secondary drowning. Now let's learn in detail about all of these. Wet drowning. In some cases, no or little water is inhaled in respiratory tract. Death occurs from asphyxia caused due to laryngeal spasm. In such cases, death is more or less instantaneous with lung fields are left dry. This is the best type of case of resuscitation. This is the mechanism of dry drowning where a person falls in water and the water enters in his air passage and the air passage shows foreign body sensation which leads to laryngeal spasm and finally results to asphyxia or absence of oxygen which leads to death. Wet drowning. This is a classical form of drowning either in fresh water or salt water. Here, water is inhaled and swallowed and lungs get waterlogged. Shallow water drowning. In this condition, drowning occurs in small puddle of water where depth of water is only few inches but sufficient to submerge the mouth and nostrils. It occurs mostly accidental in those persons who are disabled or incapacitated such as small children, epileptics, drunkards, comatose, person following head injury, etc. So this is an illustration of a person where his mouth and nostrils are submerged in a puddle of water leading to death. Immersion syndrome. It is also called as hydrocution. In this condition, death is not due to drowning but results from cardiac arrest due to vagal inhibition. Sudden contact of cold water with body surface, especially epigastrium, ears, nostrils, larynx, or pharynx, stimulates nerve endings and causes vagal inhibition. This is the mechanism so that a person falls in water and gets in contact with cold water and it results in vagal inhibition which leads to cardiac arrest and death. Secondary drowning. It is also called as near drowning. It refers to a condition where there is survival of a person following an immersion episode. The victim may die subsequently as a result of Pathophysiological consequences. This is not drowning in truest sense, but a complication or sequelae of drowning. A victim, when rescued from water, may appear alert and breathing or apparently responds to initial resuscitative measures. However, his condition may deteriorate and succumb to death. Death occurs as a sole or combined effect of pulmonary edema, aspiration pneumonia, and or electrolyte imbalance. Therefore, it is aptly said a person may die in a fluid medium without drowning and if drowned without necessarily inhaling fluid. So, this is the mechanism, that is a person fall in water and water enters in his air passage. After that the person is being rescued and the resuscitation is done. After the resuscitation, the person either responds to resuscitative measures and he is survived, otherwise he will get hospitalized. When he is hospitalized, there's a chance for him to get survived, otherwise unfortunately his condition may deteriorate. This leads to complication develops such as pulmonary edema, aspiration pneumonia, and or electrolyte imbalance which leads to death. Mechanism of drowning. The specific gravity of a human body as a whole is 1.08. The specific gravity of other parts is like fat is 0.9, bone 2.01, for muscle it is 1.08, for brain it is 1.04, for soft organs it is 1.05, and finally for the inflated lungs it is 0.94. Thus, the major portion of the body has a tendency to float, and this is known as natural buoyancy. When a person falls in water, he immediately sinks to the depth of water proportionate to momentum occurred during fall, weight, and specific gravity of body. The person at this stage may die at once, either from head injury or from coronary artery insufficiency or from sudden cardiac arrest due to vagal inhibition. Usually, the person rises up again to water surface due to natural buoyancy of body and air locked in the body associated with struggling movements of the limbs. On reaching the surface of water, person tries to breathe and cries for help. In this attempt, the person inhales and swallows water that causes violent coughing, thus diminishing the air reserve in the lungs. The forceful expiratory effort will churn the water already inhaled with air and mucus present in the respiratory tract into froth, which will block the air entry but not the water entry. Similarly, rising level of carbon dioxide in blood will initiate inspiration, causing inhalation of water leading to repeated coughing and churning of air into froth. Due to movements of limbs, the person rises again, inhales water again. In struggle for life, the process of rising and sinking goes on for some time and eventually exhaustion and insensibility sets in and finally body sinks at the bottom. Convulsions may precede death. Similarly, there may be spasm of group of muscle, especially hands will be clenched, tightly grasping mud, sand, aquatic vegetations, etc. as a sign of cadaveric spasm. The dead body will remain at bottom until it floats up due to decomposition. Pathophysiology. Immersion in fluid medium causes death by a variety of mechanisms, but asphyxia due to inhalation of water is the most common type. However, Small number of persons may die due to vagal inhibition, as in dry drowning or secondary drowning. Inhalation of fluid in lungs causes number of changes. First of all, reflex vasoconstriction, which leads to pulmonary hypertension and causes bronchoconstriction. Hence, there will be increased airway resistance, which leads to denaturation of lung surfactant, which results in decrease of lung compliance and also decrease lung tissue for ventilation. This leads to abnormal ventilation perfusion ratio, which leads to hypoxia, which can be a reason for hypercapnia, which leads to respiratory acidosis, and finally asphyxia. Now let's learn about freshwater drowning. Aspirated fresh water rapidly traverses the alveolar septum and capillary wall and leaves the lung, causing hemodilution. Fresh water is hypertonic to pulmonary circulation. About 3 to 5 liters of water is absorbed from alveolar bed within 3 minutes of initial period of struggle and apnea, thus causing hemodilution and abrupt increase in blood volume up to 72% with hemolysis. As a result, there is excess of potassium ions with reduction in sodium, calcium, and chlorine ion concentration. There is electrolyte imbalance together with oxygen deprivation and accumulation of carbon dioxide. The heart is subjected to anoxic insult, fluid overload, and hyperkalemia. Myocardial anoxia and hyperkalemia leads to ventricular fibrillation and death occurs within 4 to 5 minutes. So, this is the mechanism. As I told earlier, fresh water is hypotonic in respect to plasma concentration and it may result to hemodilution, which increases the volume of blood and it leads to overloading the heart and causing the ventricular fibrillation. Otherwise, the dilution of plasma results in rupture of the red blood cells, leading to release of the potassium ions, leading to increase in potassium or hyperkalemia, which leads to again ventricular fibrillation causing heart failure and death. Next is saltwater drowning. Seawater is osmotically hypertonic to plasma, which contains about 3.5% of dissolved salt. Since the water is hypertonic, drowning with seawater results in withdrawal of water from pulmonary circulation. About 42% of water may be withdrawn from circulation into the lung field, resulting in pulmonary edema, hemoconcentration, and hypovolemia. Due to hemoconcentration, viscosity of the blood increases and there will be increase in hematocrit and plasma, magnesium, and sodium levels. And here the red blood cells will shrink because it's hypertonic and appearance of fulminating pulmonary edema with progressive hypovolemia, which causes circulatory collapse and myocardial anoxia. Death in seawater drowning is delayed and takes about 8 to 12 minutes. So, seawater drowning, because seawater is hypertonic with respect to the plasma concentration and therefore it causes hemoconcentration, which leads to hypovolemia and finally circulatory shock. Likewise, the pulmonary edema will also lead to circulatory shock, which results in heart failure and finally death occurs. So as we have discussed, the causes of death are due to drowning, asphyxia, vagal inhibition, ventricular fibrillation, myocardial anoxia, laryngeal spasm, exhaustion, hypothermia, concussion or head injury, and even apoplexy. Now let's learn about the autopsy findings. First of all, let's learn about the external examination. So obviously, the clothes are wet and the skin is cold, wet and pale, and the skin may show cutis and cerina, that is, appearance of goose flesh or goose skin. It is a state of puckered and granular appearance of skin with hairs standing on end due to contraction of erector pylori muscle. Also, there will be washerwoman's hand, which is prolonged immersion in water leads to maceration of skin due to imbibitions of water. There is whitening, sodening, bleaching, and wrinkling of skin, particularly on palmar surface of hands and soles of feet. Subsequently, the epidermis gets separated from the dermis in glove and stalk fashion from hands and feet. Also, it helps in estimation of approximate duration of immersion. For example, wrinkling can be identified if water is cold, skin gets wrinkled soon after immersion. Bleaching of the cuticle can be seen when it becomes evident after 12 hours of immersion. Bleaching, corrugation, and sodening becomes pronounced within 24 hours, whereas the cuticle begins to separate from the palm and sole by 48 hours. Cadaveric spasm. Grass, mud, sand, etc. may be cleansed in hands. Presence of cadaveric spasm indicates person was alive when he was drowned. Rigor mortis appearance and passes early due to exhaustion and or violent struggle for life. Postmortem lividity. Here, dependent lividity may be pronounced in the face, head, neck and anterior chest because the body floats partly head down in water. The color of lividity may be bright pink due to cold preservation of oxyhemoglobin. If water is turbulent or flowing and turning the body constantly, lividity may not appear. Eyes. The conjunctiva is suffused and congested. Few subconjunctival hemorrhages may be noted. Froth. Fine, whitish, leathery, tenacious, copious froth is seen oozing out from mouth and nostrils. The froth extends vertically in cone shape when the body is undisturbed. At this time, the mass of foam may look like balloon or mushroom. The mass of foam consisting of fine bubbles does not readily collapse when touched with point of knife. This type of froth is produced by the process of churning of air, mucus and water in the respiratory tract. Because of such peculiar form is essentially vital phenomenon. So now let's discuss some of the ante-mortem and post-mortem drowning differences. Cadaveric spasm may be seen in case of ante-mortem drowning, whereas it will be absent in post-mortem drowning. Froth will be present in ante-mortem case, whereas it will be absent on post-mortem drowning cases. Stomach and intestine. In case of ante-mortem drowning, water may be present, may also there will be presence of sand, mud, grit, etc. But in case of postmortem drowning, these will be absent. Respiratory tract. It may also contain fine froth and also some vegetations, sand, mud, etc. in case of ante-mortem drowning, whereas in postmortem drowning, it is absent. Also, hemorrhage will be present in case of ante-mortem drowning, whereas it will be absent in post-mortem drowning. So, this is very helpful for the diagnosis. Internal examination. First is changes in lungs. Appearance. The lungs are voluminous, edematous, ballooned, water-lodged, bulging. The distended lung surface shows indentions of ribs. Lung feels heavy, duffy in consistency and pits on pressure by fingers. On cut sections, oozes fine, copious, leathery froth. In freshwater drowning, lungs retained the shape. In saltwater drowning, lungs are heavy, saggy, ballooned, and cut sections exudes copious frothy fluid, and the cut sections does not retain its shape. Next is Paltoff's hemorrhages. These are subpleural hemorrhages mostly noted over anterior surface and margins of lungs. They are caused due to rupture of intra-alveolar partitions beneath the pleura. Emphysema aquosum. This is nothing but the lungs feel heavy, duffy, spongy, and water-lodged. This state is known as emphysema aquosum. This condition indicates that the person was conscious and struggles for life. There will be also some other findings, such as respiratory passage shows whitish fine froth and may show sand, mud, silt, grit, and vegetations, etc. Blood is usually dark and fluid. Stomach and proximal intestine may contain swallowed water or in addition may show sand, mud, grit, silt, etc. Water may be found in middle ear and claimed to be positive proof of antemortem drowning. Water is forced into middle ear during violent respiratory effort. Hemorrhage in middle ear and mastoid air cells are considered as vital sign. These hemorrhages are produced due to barotraumas and due to pressure difference between middle ear and surrounding water. So what is the medical legal importance of all these? Most drowning deaths are suicidal or accidental in nature. Accidental drowning can occur in toddlers and children by fall in bathtub, bucket, swimming pool, etc. Accidental deaths can also occur in recreational activities such as boating, diving, hypoxic lab, etc. Accidental deaths can be related with fishing or even occupational activity. Mass fatality may occur in boat sinking, floods, etc. Also, homicidal drowning are very rare. Question may be raised whether drowning is antemortem or postmortem. The difference between or the different features shown by antemortem and postmortem deaths by drowning have been discussed earlier. Hope you understood the video. Like, subscribe and press the bell button for more videos. Thank you. Thanks for watching.